just don't have, again, I don't have any concept as to, if you're talking a couple of months, I don't know if that's continuously for a couple of months with these trucks coming through the neighborhood. I mean, are they gonna be going McIntyre, or how are they gonna access?
It's possible that part of the project could be done at one time, then delayed for a while, and then continued at another time. That's another possibility.
Yeah, those kind of logistics need to be worked out with full disclosure to the neighborhood, because you know, while it's a good thing to do and it's a smart thing to do, people need to be informed as to how, why, and for how long, and exactly what can they expect to be driving by their door.
All right, so I think I'll talk to Joe and have him schedule or get in touch with all the members, the existing members, and get a meeting going. And then we'll allow the committee to come back with recommendations to the board, have Joe coordinate a time. We'll have a public hearing on what's being proposed and move forward with it. I think it's a good idea. The one question I had, Dana, you said it was sustainable on an annual basis. I'm not sure I fully...
No, it depends on, obviously, the growth rate, because you have some good years, growing years. You might have a 10-year period.
Okay, all right.
Growing.
I didn't think it would be. I just...
So you did yours twice in 18 years?
Well,
how big was your, I know you're up there and you've got some acreage up there.
when I originally, when you do it as a landowner, a private landowner, you have to do it for a 10-year program. You're in it for 10 years. At the end of the 10 years, you can renew it, or you can just say, I've had enough. When I first did it, I believe it was like the second year I was in the program, I had a cutting under the recommendations that, approved by the state. And then I did renew it at the end of 10 years, and I think I've been in the second 10 year. I think it's about 18. I think it's about the 8th year, 7th or 8th.
But every year they do some?
Well, in a sense, yes, because every year I've cut cordwood.
Oh.
Every year I've cut cordwood. Now, when you do the commercial cutting, generally it's more because there's obviously more cut. And but when I've done it for cordwood, it's I probably cut. I would say I've probably cut at least 10 cord. The area is probably that I'm working with is 15 acres. I've probably cut 10 cord every year for 18 years. And you can't, I can tell because I'm doing it, but I mean, if somebody walked through, I don't think they would know how much has been taken out. But as far as a commercial thing, I would say probably, well, if we do it the way we're planning, because there are areas basically we're not going to be touching, you might possibly have another cutting in 5 years. But that would depend too, when you obviously go out and you look at it and you say, we should work. And the other thing when I mentioned about the clear cutting area, the school mentioned, we might want to take some small areas, open them up so that we can plant a ground crop of for the animals, corn, wheat, winter rice, something like that. But that would be something that we don't do it right now. We might, as things go along, we might find an area that this would be a good area to do it. So we might do it at that point. But it's not something that you would do right away.
Okay.
It's a good Eagle Scout project.
John, I'd like to thank you, Dana. And next step, Joe will arrange a meeting, and then, based on your time frame, schedule a meeting back to the board. We'll address this. I think it's general consensus of the board or in support of such a program.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, next item on our agenda. We have a proclamation for United Nations Day.
Make the motion, Mr. Chairman? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move to proclaim October 24th, 2008 as the United Nations Day and read the attached proclamation.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Harris, seconded by Mr. O'Leary. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Unanimous? You want me to read the proclamation?
It's got your name on it.
It's got my name on it. This is a proclamation from the Board of Selectmen. Whereas the United Nations was founded in 1945, and the anniversary of the day on which the UN Charter came into force is observed each year on October 24th. And whereas the central role of the United Nations is to promote peace and security, development and human rights around the world, and is vital now more than ever. And whereas in September of 2000, 189 countries, including the United States, agreed upon 8 Millennium Development Goals to meet the needs of the world's poorest, and whereas the 7th Millennium Development Goal seeks to integrate the principles of sustainable development into country policies and programs, and reverse the loss of environmental resources and biodiversity, and whereas the goal also seeks to reduce by half the proportion of people living without sustainable access to safe drinking water and basic sanitation, and achieve significant improvement in lives of at least 100 million slum dwellers by 2020, and whereas the United States has demonstrated its commitment to sustainable development partnership efforts with other countries to create and implement development strategies in areas that include access to clean water and sanitation services, conservation and environmental stewardship, and protecting marine and freshwater resources, and whereas the United States must continue to work with the United Nations and other UN agencies in order to provide a coordinated multilateral effort to assess the loss of environmental resources and achieve further progress toward global sustainable development. And whereas the United Nations Association of the United States of America, UNA-USA, in cooperation with other organizations, has declared environmental sustainability as an essential tool for poverty alleviation as its theme for the 2008 United Nations Day commemorations. Whereas the citizens of North Reading should participate in all activities related to the United Nations Day. Now therefore, I, Robert Messeri, officially proclaim October 28, 2008 as United Nations Day.
Nice job reading that. Quite a lengthy.
A lot of whereases.
Oh, it is.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is to take a look at and have a discussion on our FY 2009 revenue forecast. And I'm going to present some numbers tonight, and I caution both our viewers that are not here tonight and those that are sitting here and board members that this is a first pass estimate. These numbers are being further reviewed in detail by the town administrator, the finance director, the board of assessors, and who else? Oh, the town treasurer associated with what's developing. Basically, what I'm going to present this evening, it's a simple slide that shows that we have an anticipated revenue shortfall for this fiscal year. And as the governor has just announced the state shortfall, we are obligated to find ways of finishing the year with a balanced budget, which will require adjustments. We're not going to discuss adjustments this evening. We're just going to discuss generally where we see the shortfall coming, and to make sure that we all have an appreciation for what we're dealing with. And with that, I'm just going to open up a slide. I did print copies, which I handed out to everybody but you, Michael, because you came in a couple minutes late. So. But this is the primary slide that we're looking at. Thank you. next column shows either a surplus or shortfall against what we the actual budget, not the actual budget, but what we budgeted. So in other words, the motor vehicle excise tax for 2008, what we collected was $2,184,281, and we actually had estimated a number less than that. And that ended up with a positive number. And the penalties and interest, payment in lieu of taxes, and investment income, all were on the positive side for 2008 revenue, which would have resulted in free cash at the end of the year for that amount of money, except that a number of other items of town revenue fell short. Our fees were off $23,670. Department revenue was down by a small amount. Licenses and permits were down by $127,000, and this reflects essentially the lack of building in town, the slowdown in housing. Fines and forfeitures were down a little bit from our estimate. Municipal Medicaid number was off considerably. I think we had budgeted over $100,000. And real estate, committed real estate was off $327,000. And what that means is basically, of all the real estate bills that went out, we didn't collect from everybody. People are delinquent for whatever reason at this point. The slowdown in the economy has added to it. Some of that could be just late bills coming in, but I'll show you a slide later that shows a trend over the past 3 years of that number growing, which is obviously a concern. State receipts, this is not Chapter 70, and it's not lottery, but there are other state receipts that was off a little bit. Personal property taxes fell short in terms of the bills that went out in terms of what we collected. And that resulted in a $618,930 deficit. And since we were on the surplus side for the first four items, it left a deficit of $331,050. That was covered by